Good afternoon, New York, and the rest of our listeners around the globe. My name is June Stoyer, and I'm the host of the Clean Energy View radio show. Our podcasts are available on iTunes, Zune, and you can also visit our website at www.cleanenergyview.com. If you have any questions for our guests, there are many ways you can contact the show. You can post a question on our wall on Facebook, Skype us, or contact me directly at June Stoyer on Twitter. If you'd like to be on the show or would like to find out about sponsorship opportunities, please contact us at info@cleanenergyview.com. It is hard to believe that it has been a year since Superstorm Sandy devastated the New York metro area. Although this may appear to be a local issue for the region, the world watched and observed the efforts to rebuild and restore the area. Regardless of how people may feel about New York, everything that happens here does impact other parts of the world. On today's show, I have the pleasure of welcoming Mr. John McMahon, the Chief Operating Officer of the Long Island Power Authority, otherwise referred to as LIPA. We will be talking about some of the exciting changes that are being made. So I would like to welcome to the show Mr. John McMahon. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, June. Nice to be here.
Sir, could you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself and also some of your previous experiences in energy?
Sure, June. There's not much to tell, but I have spent my career in the utility business. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, born and raised in the Bronx, and graduated law school many, many years ago. And out of law school, I went to work in the Con Edison rate department. Con Edison, as you know, is a New York City electric and gas and steam utility. And that turned out to be a terrific career-building opportunity for me. Con Edison is a wonderful place with many wonderful people and mentors and truly dynamic utility issues to address. People say that everything that happens in the utility industry happens first in New York City. So I saw my share of issues over the 34 years. I retired from Con Edison, was engaged in a consulting career. I was asked to serve as COO of LIPA about 6 months ago, and I thought I could help because LIPA had been subject to a lot of criticism, not only during Sandy, but over the past few years. And I always wondered, boy, I bet I could help. So I'm out here to see if I can.
I think you are definitely going to make a very positive impact. And I had the pleasure of meeting you recently and was so impressed by all the things that you spoke about. And there is also a new change with LIPA, and that involves a company called PSEG. Can you explain what this new role with PSEG is and also what LIPA's role will be?
Sure, June. PSEG is the Public Service Enterprise Group. Its main operation is in New Jersey. It's headquartered in Newark, New Jersey, and serves as a utility company a large portion of the state of New Jersey. And they were selected to be the new operator of the Long Island grid. What is unique in this case, and a change from prior practice, is that PSEG will not only operate, but they will also manage the Long Island grid. Our current operator operates the grid, and LIPA has been the manager. LIPA's role going forward with PSEG, with Public Service Enterprise Group, managing and operating the grid will be that of oversight. So that's a significant difference going forward.
One of the biggest issues has been with communication. While no one wants to be without power, there are reasons why precautions were taken prior to turning back the power in many areas. There are safety and legal reasons that many people did not understand. Moving forward, how will PSEG's new role improve communications?
Well, let me say first, June, that I really empathize with people who are without power during a major storm for what goes on for, in that case of Sandy, for more than a week, and they are ready to have power restored, and then somebody they see as a bureaucrat says, well, you need an electrical inspection. So that was a very tense time for many people, and I understand everything on both sides. Obviously, I wasn't here during that period of time, but I'm not so sure I could have helped because to the time we came to that point, tensions were very high. People wanted electricity. I always think of my wife when I think of customers without electricity, because if she's without electricity for 5 minutes, she's on the ceiling, and I know that every customer is like that. So it's a very difficult time for customers and for utilities trying to respond. I always say that the role of utilities in a storm or other emergency, that's primary. Our role is to be there when customers need us most. And in Sandy, we were there. Our record was really comparable to other area utilities in terms of restoring service, despite difficulties that we encountered. As far as PSEG goes, Public Service Enterprise Group, they will have the advantage of really operating without a split in functions. They are the manager and operator, will plan in one voice, plan in one team, and speak in one voice and speak in one team. And that's going to be a significant advantage. I would say, so they have already coming up to the beginning of this new arrangement on January 1st, 2014, PSEG has really revamped the storm process going into 2014, where they will move towards a more centralized approach in storm response. They will also have a communications plan that is unified and cohesive. But one thing, June, anybody thinking about this would recognize that Sandy opened up everybody's eyes. It wasn't just the electric utilities, but it's also local responders, local communities, and customers themselves, large customers, small customers. But especially with respect to local communities, everybody realized that even though we always knew that we needed to establish liaison and contact and effective communication with local communities, Sandy really opened everybody's eyes and said, we thought we were doing a good job. We have to double down. And so PSEG has that strong operating advantage coming into this, and they have done a lot of work leading up to the January 1st changeover to establish close relationships with the highway yards in the towns and villages and with the leadership of the towns and villages, where it's essential to have good coordination and understanding. One thing that happens is you show up at a customer's door and you're explaining a procedure to them. If prior to that there's been 2 weeks of criticism and misunderstanding, how much credibility do you have? So it's important to plant that credibility and establish it well in advance of that interface during an emergency.
Yes, I agree. And I think also I was devastated by the storm, and I can relate to the analogy that you gave before about your wife. Nobody wants to be without power. However, I've also traveled all over the world, and I know what it's like when power goes out. And unfortunately, in some countries, they don't have the luxuries that we have here and often take for granted. But when a storm like Sandy hit, nobody could have prepared for it. But I think the main thing is, with communications, people have to understand that it's not just because LIPA felt like being difficult or anything like that, but more along the lines of safety. Safety should always be first, and I would rather have everything copacetic and everything up to code than to have somebody that is not licensed perform work and, God forbid, have the house burned down in the middle of the night. You never know. So the communication issue was very big, and I think the steps that are being taken will make a significant difference as far as any future storms or any type of future issues that may come about.
I hope that generals fighting the last war and this never happens again, but if it does happen, I think we'll be much more prepared, and the community at large, including the utilities, will be on a much better common plane of understanding, and that's going to be a huge advantage for everybody.
Oh, I agree. Communications are critical, especially in a time of crisis when people don't know what's going on. And if they hear the wrong information, it's very easy for things to escalate and become a very big problem, especially if the wrong things are being communicated. People can become very upset and irate, and that is never any good. So the fact that the communications are a very big concern and are being addressed, I think that's a great effort to make.
Yeah, absolutely right. Communications are important.
Thank you. My next question is, how will LIPA oversee the quality assurance for renovation and rebuilding of structures that were both partially and fully damaged?
Well, this really goes to, June, this goes to LIPA's role under the new framework of oversight. And the oversight with respect to this particular issue, quality assurance for renovation and rebuilding, is really not going to be substantially different than our role of oversight for any other aspect of Public Service Enterprise Group's operations. We have a difficult job. We cannot manage. We're used to managing. We've managed for the past 13 plus years. and we're not going to be managers going forward. So oversight, what does oversight mean? Well, we have to check to see, is PSEG being responsive to customers? Are they maintaining the grid? Are they operating the system appropriately? Are they being wise with the ratepayers' dollars? And how do we do that? We don't manage them, but we watch them. We engage in a dialogue with them without intruding on their management. And for example, we expect to meet with them monthly in a way that we can probe deeply into an understanding of their operations and of the system and observe system trends and industry trends, and also keep an eye on major developments, major projects, and always keep an eye on the ratepayer dollar to make sure that it's being spent wisely. So in terms of oversight, we will want to know that they have systems in place and procedures in place for restoration, but that will be the end of that. We will look to them to manage that process. I think they're going to be fine because they have a century of operating credibility behind them. So we're not bringing in somebody that just fell off the turnip truck. They've been around the block and they know how to operate a utility system, and they're bringing in proven managers.
Yeah, I think that's very important, especially when you have a partnership with a company that has a lot of experience and is established. They have the wherewithal to be able to make the necessary changes that may not be addressed otherwise. So I think that that's a very important thing to do.
That's the key, really. You know, Mike Tyson says you have a plan going into a fight, and then all of a sudden you get punched in the face. Things changed all the time, and you have to be competence means your ability to deal with change and uncertainty, not the ability to follow a procedure on a written page. And that's what public service is going to bring to the table.
Thank you. Can you please talk about the new grants for the outage management systems?
Sure. The outage management system is a process that Public Service Enterprise Group has in its operations in New Jersey. The Long Island grid has a form of a management system, but it's antiquated. Public Service is bringing their system over to Long Island, and really it will replace a manually intensive system with a new one that is not manually intensive, and it's going to help us provide accurate restoration times, increase utility effectiveness to manage crews, and increase the utility's ability to detect parts of the grid that require long-term remediation. LIPA has a good plan. We also have a strong advocate in the governor of New York, Governor Cuomo, and he's been an advocate for LIPA and the LIPA grid to obtain federal funds. So we just last week, with the governor's assistance, obtained a commitment for $50+ million to support this outage management system, the OMS system as we call it. So it's through a community development block grant from the federal government, and we expect to have that system up and running this summer. So that's a welcome development for the Long Island Electric customer.
That's fantastic. And just to have the support of the governor, and especially to obtain the federal funds, is so incredibly important, because people don't understand that we do need to make these changes, and to have the federal assistance will be a huge benefit, especially when it comes to taxpayers.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any plans to bring energy storage systems to Long Island?
June, yes, we do have plans to bring energy storage systems to Long Island. We recently issued an RFP for our peaking facilities. During the summer is when the Long Island grid experiences its peak loads, and we have basically jet engines that we turn on to meet the peak loads when it gets very hot and the air conditioners turn on. Those peaking generators were installed in the 1960s and 1970s, and they need to be replaced. So we put an RFP out for new peaking units, and we specified in that RFP that we would look to storage technologies to serve as peaking power, so that theoretically you could store a battery, say, at night and have that available to you during the peak daytime hours. The challenge is going to be the duration of those batteries, but the storage technologies are improving all the time, and we're optimistic that a developer will respond in a way that makes the application of storage technologies a reality in Long Island. I would say that New York State as a whole and our arrangement with Public Service Enterprise Group specifically is moving forward with a goal to establish Utility 2.0, which is a term that really is the next stage of utility development. Experts are saying that there's been a lot of application of economics and efficiency principles to the bulk power grid with the formation in the United States of regional transmission organizations. And these experts are saying that a similar discipline and focus ought to be brought to bear on the utility distribution end of the system. And Utility 2.0 will focus on the development of a distribution system that has much more information going for it, so customers can respond to pricing much more efficiently and dynamically. The Utility 2.0 will rely on distributed generation to a much greater extent, and storage as well plays a key role, or is expected to play a key role in the development of Utility 2.0 systems. So Public Service Enterprise Group is to deliver its first plan to LIPA in the end of June 2014 for the development of a Utility 2.0, and we're very excited about that.
That is really quick. If you think about it, it's just a couple of months away.
June, I've spent many years participating in efforts to develop new plans and new systems, and you're right, it is just a few months away, and you can't believe how time gets eaten up in those conferences room. You're going and going and going, and you're all of a sudden the time is running out, and you say, oh my goodness, I didn't, what happened to those last 6 months? So they have their work cut out for them, but they're very excited about it, and their leadership is focused on being at the cutting edge of utility systems. So we're very much looking forward to the production of their plan.
Yeah, I think that's incredible, and especially when it comes to anything to do with energy storage, that seems to be the hottest trend in energy, especially since Superstorm Sandy, because people recognize the fact that, while we may want to incorporate renewable energy technologies, we need to focus on energy efficiency, but more importantly, energy storage. So that is really fantastic news.
Yeah, and I would hasten to point out, part of this new framework on Long Island will be the state regulators are going to have a presence, the Department of Public Service, and on Long Island, and they will provide a regulatory review function for Public Service Enterprise Group and for Long Island Power Authority. And the reason I bring that up is that they also have new leadership, and their new chair, Audrey Zeibelman, is known as a proponent of Utility 2.0, and I think the confluence of a forward-looking regulator and a forward-looking operator-manager of the Long Island grid is going to be fortuitous for the Long Island customer in terms of being on the cutting edge of new technology and new approaches to the distribution of electricity on Long Island.
Thank you.
So we're excited.
It's such an exciting time to be in New York and just to see all these changes happening. It's almost as though the lessons that were learned from Sandy have really helped to pave the way of the future where we need to really go. And speaking of which, if you could just share briefly some of the long-term plans you have for LIPA.
Well, in terms of long-term plans for LIPA, we like where we are. We have a new service provider. We'll be overseeing our new service provider, Public Service Enterprise Group. LIPA will continue to finance the Long Island grid and on a tax-exempt basis, which is important for utility ratepayers, and will also be maintaining eligibility for federal emergency assistance should emergencies arise in the future. And the industry in general, as you're pointing out, it's just exciting and dynamic. There's new issues all the time. And this not only goes to renewable energy, energy efficiency, as you're pointing out, and Utility 2.0, but new customer service systems that we'll be putting in to improve the responsiveness to our customers, and they register their dissatisfaction if they're not treated as the special customers they are. You talked about other countries, other locations where service may not be up to the level that it is here. Well, we have customers with very high expectations, and it's very important for everybody concerned to meet those expectations and exceed those expectations, and that's what makes us excited about the future.
Mr. McMahon, I just want to thank you for coming on the show today and taking so much time out of your busy schedule to share some of the exciting things that are going on, so that not only the people here in New York can look forward to some of these changes, but also our listeners who are located overseas who are very interested in the things that happen on Long Island. So thank you once again for coming on the show today.
Thank you, and tell them that if they're in town to look me up. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And folks, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been June Stoyer with the Clean Energy View Radio Show. Have a great afternoon, everyone.